Chapter 61. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What did you say? Ji Luoyao's eyes flashed with anger at the old minister's suggestion, and she shot to her feet, staring in disbelief, as if she'd misheard. She asked slowly, "You want me to bow down and apologize to him?" Seriously. A queen doesn't bow to anyone, that's just plain wrong. How could anyone even suggest such a thing? The old minister remained calm, unfazed by her anger. Instead, he earnestly tried to reason with her. "Your Majesty, please don't get carried away. This is for the good of the country. Is there any better deal than admitting a little mistake to save it? Pride can only get you so far. Besides, if you don't tell anyone, who's going to know you apologized, right?" Ji Luoyao seated at his rebellious words and self-deceptive logic. If he weren't the old minister, she'd have slapped him silly. She took a deep breath, barely holding back the fury. Then, she declared, "Absolutely not. I will never apologize to him. Never." She shot the old minister a cold look. "You can go if you want, but I'm not going anywhere near him." The old minister just sighed. You can't have it both ways. If he could, the old man wouldn't mind losing face for the good of the country, but he didn't have a personal relationship with the Duke of Weigua, so he had no sway to begin with. Then, it hit him. His eyes lit up, and he said quickly, "Maybe there's someone who can convince him." Ji Luoyao froze, hesitating. She glanced distantly, pretending to be disinterested as she asked, "Who?" Tired of the Empress's act of playing hard to get, the old minister just stated the name. "The old master." The old master. Ji Luoyao frowned. The old master was the head of the Imperial Academy and one of the most respected literary figures in Dezhou. When she imprisoned Jiang Hao, the old master had led the academy students in protesting for his release. She remembered him well. But Prince Duan already tried to get Jiang Hao out of retirement and was flatly turned down. Even if the old master has a connection, can it really mean more than a royal request? I doubt it'll work. The old minister smiled and shook his head. Prince Duan's relationship is just personal, but the old master is different. The old master once did him a huge favor, saved his parents' lives, to be exact. The Duke of Weigua's parents may have passed away, but the debt still stands, and the Duke of Weigua is honor-bound to repay it. The Duke of Weigua has always been one to pay his dues. If the old master asks him to come out of retirement, can he really refuse, considering they owe him their very lives? Ji Luoyao considered this. From what she knew of Jiang Hao, he was the type to pay back any kindness tenfold. He'd thrown his all behind her because she'd given him a chance and trusted him when no one else did. That unknown kid finally had a stage to prove himself, and he'd paid her back in ways she couldn't have imagined. She'd only been a princess with a talent for cultivation, never dreaming she'd rule Dezhou as its only queen. They'd complimented each other every step of the way. Lost in thought, Ji Luoyao wondered, if she hadn't acted, would Jiang Hao have stayed true to himself? She didn't know. People change, nobody stays the same, positions shift, and so do perspectives. Even she changed. How could she expect Jiang Hao to remain the same? Of course, whether he changed or not didn't matter now. It was too late for regrets. As far as I know, the old master is incredibly upright and stubborn. He'd rather die than leverage past kindness to get his way. Ji Luoyao considered it and spoke again. The old minister nodded in agreement. The old master is that kind of man. He'd never agree, especially not if I asked. Even a direct order from you, Your Majesty, wouldn't work. He's devoted his life to teaching and leading by example. He's never owed anyone a thing. The old minister trailed off, a hint of regret in his eyes. He sighed helplessly, stamped his foot, and complained, "I've lived an honest life, but now I'm scheming against someone like him in my old age. It's a sin." Ji Luoyao's face darkened, but the old minister was trying to help her, so she couldn't say anything. He might be cantankerous, but there was no doubt, he was wholeheartedly devoted to Dezhou. Finally, he offered a solution. "We can't ask him directly, but ordinary people can, because a gentleman can be fooled." "A gentleman can be fooled?" Ji Luoyao's eyes lit up. "Would that work on Jiang Hao?" The old minister looked up and shook his head. The Duke of Wei may not be a villain, but he sure isn't a gentleman. A merciful man doesn't lead armies. He's ruthless. People are just numbers to him. Morally manipulating him is a long shot, to put it nicely. Ji Luoyao looked disappointed. She remembered their last meeting in the Sky Prison, how indifferent Jiang Hao had been. He really did have a heart of stone. Then I'll leave this to you, old minister. I'll issue orders for everyone to help out. That the old minister bowed and dragged his weary body out. His cultivation wasn't great, just like Jiang Hao starting out, and he was no martial arts expert, plus, he was nearly 100 years old, and his health was fading. He probably didn't have many years left. Watching him go, Ji Luoyao felt a pang of sadness. There weren't many people she could trust in court. If even the old minister were gone, she didn't know who she could count on. Alone. Finally, she understood the meaning of the word. She sat quietly, gazing at the sky. A storm was brewing, and a cold wind howled. She felt a deep loneliness, as if she were the only person left in the world. In the cold palace, a faint murmur drifted. If I hadn't taken this position, would everything be different? Chapter 62. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thai Academy. The old professor sat in his office, face like thunder. Across from him, the former prime minister wore a wry smile. I know I'm asking a lot this time, but I'm out of options. He'd have been better off saying nothing. The moment the words left his mouth, the professor's eyes widened and he started fuming. He pointed toward the crowd gathered outside, and let the prime minister have it. So, you have no choice, but to drag me into this? To manipulate these innocent folks? Where's your conscience, Xin Yongwang? Did the dog eat it? I never thought you'd stoop this low. You think I'll cave just because you orchestrated this public spectacle? You're dead wrong. The more you pull stunts like this, the less likely I am to play ball. You want me to beg the Duke of Wei to come out of retirement? Not a chance. Dream on. That the prime minister simply wiped away the spittle and chuckled. Of course, I know you're not one to give in easily. We've been friends for ages. How could I not know that? But you've got one thing wrong. Those people out there. I didn't put them up to this. They came of their own accord. Okay, I did grease the wheels a little. I just let them know that if they could get you to ask, the Duke of Wei might come back. And they showed up. Why? Is it because of me? I'm not that important, or is it you? Nope, you don't have that kind of pull. It's because they desperately want the Duke of Wei back. Even if there's just a sliver of hope, they're willing to grab onto it, because they all want the great Zhou to be stable again, to live in peace and quiet. The Prime Minister said, his face etched with sincerity. The professor remained unmoved, scoffing. So, you're trying to strong-arm me into strong-arming the Duke of Wei? No matter how noble you try to make it sound, that's what it boils down to. Think about how hard the Duke of Wei worked, slaving away for the great Zhou and the Ji family, burning the midnight oil. And how did you repay him? You were afraid his accomplishments would outshine the emperor, afraid he'd try to seize power, afraid of things that never even happened. So, you cooked up a bunch of fake charges and then railroaded him, ignoring everyone who protested and throwing him in jail without a second thought. Now that the great Zhou is falling apart without him at the helm, you're suddenly desperate for him to come back and save you. I have to ask, where do you get the nerve? Or did you realize you're too shameless to do it yourself, so you manipulated these naive folks to do your dirty work? That the professor jabbed a trembling finger at the former prime minister. Do you have any idea how low you've sunk? That the prime minister took the dressing down. Even though he'd braced himself for it, he'd underestimated the professor's ability to unleash a verbal storm. The scolding left him deflated. After so many years of friendship, to be attacked so mercilessly, with all past feelings cast aside, it was a clear indication of the professor's simmering rage. The prime minister fell into a long silence, finally looking up after a considerable time. You're right. What I've done is pretty despicable. I used them, and I was hoping to use the Duke of Wei, all to grant the last wish of an old man on his way out. I just don't want to see the great Zhou collapse before I die. How could I face our ancestors if I did? That the Prime Minister seemed to have aged a decade in that moment, his already stooped frame seemed even more hunched, even sitting there, he seemed to emanate a smell of decay, his spirit seemed to have been halved. Seeing his old friend like this, the professor started to speak, then stopped himself. He was afraid that if he kept going, he might just kill the guy with his words. Better to hold back a little. But the professor's stance remained unwavering. No matter what you say, I won't pressure the Duke of Wei. If he wants to come out of retirement, fine. But nobody can force him, because he doesn't owe De Zhou anything. De Zhou owes him. That the professor's words carried the force of conviction. The Prime Minister nodded and gave up on persuading him. All right, I understand. But these people are here because of you. You should tell them yourself. Hearing this, the professor frowned slightly, hesitated, and finally rose. He headed quickly outside. The area outside the academy was now packed with people who had heard the news. When they saw the professor, their eyes lit up with unprecedented hope. Professor, everyone says that if we can get to you, the Duke of Wei will be all right. Is that true? Professor, if the Duke of Wei comes back, will our great Zhou be able to avoid war? My son was drafted to the north, and we haven't heard from him in months. I just want him to come home. Professor, please ask the Duke of Wei to come back. Without him, the great Zhou is a mess. Those corrupt officials are bleeding us dry with all kinds of taxes. We can barely make ends meet. Professor, you're a respected man. Please convince Her Majesty to release the Duke of Wei. He's a godsend. How can they imprison a man like that? Heaven will punish them. Before the professor could speak, a chorus of voices erupted, each person eager to be heard, and the once quiet academy buzzed with noise. But the professor didn't seem bothered by the commotion. He knew that no matter how corrupt the rulers were, these ordinary people were innocent, and they genuinely hoped for the Duke of Wei's return. Looking into their hopeful faces, the professor opened his mouth, but found himself unable to say no. He could unleash hell on the Prime Minister, but he couldn't bear to disappoint these simple folk. After a moment of internal struggle, he sighed deeply. Then, he turned back to the former Prime Minister and said with an unprecedented coldness, "Is this what you wanted? Congratulations, you win. I'll go to the Imperial prison first thing tomorrow morning, but I can't guarantee anything." With that, the professor turned and left, never looking at the former Prime Minister again. The former Prime Minister stood there, speechless. His plan had worked, but he felt no joy. He knew that he had lost a friend forever, a friend he'd known for decades. Was it worth it? He didn't know. He just wanted to do everything he could to protect the great Zhou. Chapter 63. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The old master was true to his word, arriving at the heavenly prison gates early the next morning. Despite his distaste for the old minister's methods of strong-arming people, he was a man who honored his commitments. The Empress had already sent word to the heavenly prison to expect him. Upon hearing of the old master's arrival, Tao Gongwang, the warden, rushed out to greet him. "Old sir, so glad you could make it. Your presence truly brightens our humble abode." Tao Gongwang gushed. His obsequious attitude was a stark contrast to his previous behavior toward the director of the Imperial Observatory. "Spare the pleasantries, sir. I'm just a washed-up scholar, not deserving of such a grand welcome," the old master replied stiffly. Tao Gongwang's smile faltered slightly. He'd heard the old man was old-fashioned and difficult, and now he was seeing it firsthand. In reality, Tao Gongwang's position didn't require such humility. Even with the Empress's directive, he could have simply escorted the old master inside. However, he'd heard of the unusual connection between the old master and Jiang Hao, so he proactively lowered himself, hoping to curry favor. If he could get the old master to put in a good word for him with Jiang Hao, his future might be a little brighter. Always good to have a backup plan. Tao Gongwang, a seasoned operator who had climbed the ranks to become the warden, wasn't fazed by the old master's bluntness. His enthusiasm remained undeterred. "Old sir, your reputation precedes you. You're no ordinary scholar. You're far too modest. Besides, my second cousin's nephew is one of your students. Truth be told, that makes me practically family. Today, you're my guest of honor, so let's make you feel right at home. Please, come in. The old master had spent his life teaching, not schmoozing. He'd never encountered such a shameless display of networking. Utterly helpless against the onslaught, he was half-dragged into the heavenly prison by Tao Gongwang. I've come to see the Duke of Weigua, the old master stated quickly, cutting through the chatter. Understood. I've already sent word, well, a notification. Consider it done. Let's go. Seeing Tao Gongwang's hasty correction, the old man frowned, sensing something was off about the guy, but he didn't dwell on it. He doubted he'd be visiting the prison again anytime soon, and likely wouldn't cross paths with the warden again. Under Tao Gongwang's guidance, the old man quickly reached the 18th floor. Jiang Hao, having risen early, had already brewed tea. The old master didn't have many indulgences, but tea was his weakness. The refreshing aroma made his eyes light up, and he was momentarily taken aback. Was prison life this cushy nowadays? Having such fine tea on hand almost made him want to check in for a few days himself. As if reading the old man's mind, Jiang Hao smiled and explained, I had it specially prepared when I heard you were coming. Then, ignoring Tao Gongwang's presence, he directly addressed him, nothing for you here. You can head out. Tao Gongwang nodded briskly. Okay, I'll be waiting outside. Let me know if you need anything. With that, he scurried off, considerately closing the prison door behind him, granting them privacy. The old man's suspicion deepened. The warden of Tianlao, a man of local influence, was acting this subservient in front of a prisoner. Even if that prisoner was the Duke of Weigua. It sounds like you have questions for me, Jiang Hao said. Why don't we sit and talk over tea? I'll tell you everything I know. Jiang Hao gestured towards the table. Looks like the Duke of Weigua is living the high life here, the old man remarked. He accepted the tea offered by Jiang Hao, took a sip, closed his eyes, savored the flavor, then opened them again. Good tea, that he couldn't help but exclaim. Jiang Hao chuckled, glad his efforts had paid off. I have more here that I don't usually drink. Take it with you when you leave. No point in it going to waste. If anyone else offered, I'd refuse, but from you, the Duke of Weigua, I'll gladly accept. They exchanged a knowing glance, and a shared laugh filled the room. Jiang Hao had few people he genuinely respected, and the old man was undoubtedly one of them. It wasn't just the old man's vast knowledge, but his dedication to teaching and nurturing minds throughout his life. Their bond was deep. The old man had saved Jiang Hao's parents, and they were close friends, regardless of their age difference. I suspect you have a pretty good idea why I'm here, the old man said, setting down his teacup and taking the initiative. Jiang Hao nodded. The Empress sending someone to greet Tao Gongwang was all the confirmation he needed. I'm sorry you're caught in this, Jiang Hao said. If it weren't for him, the old man wouldn't have been targeted, his peaceful life undisturbed. Most people would jump at the chance to be noticed by the Empress, even using it as a stepping stone, but Jiang Hao knew the old man better. If he sought power and riches, he wouldn't have lived in relative poverty all these years, considering his knowledge and skill. It's not my troubles I'm worried about, but yours, Duke Wei, the old man sighed, looking intently at Jiang Hao. The most important thing I have to say to you is, don't let me influence your decision. The past is the past. Do what you believe is right now. Jiang Hao was taken aback. The old man's words were unexpected. I thought you'd try to persuade me at least a little, Jiang Hao chuckled. It seems those people who sent you didn't expect you to be so unconventional, Jiang Hao said. The old man thought of someone, and snorted, I might be old, but I'm not stupid. Those people only want to use both of us. Frankly, even if you, the Duke of Wei, were released, what could you do? Do they really think they'd let you regain power? Aren't they afraid you'd seize the opportunity to strike back? If they had that much faith in you, they wouldn't have thrown you in heavenly prison in the first place. Jiang Hao asked, so, you're telling me I shouldn't accept their offer to get out? No, the old man shook his head. On the contrary, I still hope you can escape heavenly prison, but not for their sake, for the sake of the people. A fire lit in his eyes as he stared intently at Jiang Hao. No one said the world has to be ruled by the Ji family. Duke Weigua, you have the ability to govern well and care for the people, so why shouldn't you take charge? Chapter 64. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why not just replace him? Those 6 words were loaded, enough to make heads roll. Even the wily Jiang Hao was taken aback. He shot to his feet, staring intently at the old man. He even covertly used his spiritual sense to scan him, checking to see if it was a disguise or a demon possession, but after a thorough check by both him and the shadow demon, there was no sign of trickery. It really was the old man he knew. That was what shocked Jiang Hao the most. Coming from anyone else, the statement wouldn't have been so surprising. But from the old man, it was beyond belief. In Jiang Hao's mind, the old man was always content with simple living, avoiding worldly affairs. All he cared about was his studies, oblivious to the world outside his books, and now this man was suggesting he plot a coup and take the throne. That was more shocking to Jiang Hao than the sun rising in the west. My words seem to have been a bit of a shock. Wei, you seem to be having a little trouble digesting it. Seeing Jiang Hao's surprise, the old man chuckled softly, then he reassured him, but don't worry, Wei. I'm not testing you, and I'm certainly not testing you for anyone else. Jiang Hao waved his hand. I trust your character, old man. Besides, I'm locked up in this prison. What would be the point of testing me? Unless they kill me, what else can they do? That when someone's down in the dumps, that's when they have the least to lose. After all, things couldn't get much worse. If anything, they could only get better from here. The old man nodded in understanding and explained, there's a reason I said something so shocking. You should know that my family's from Jiangnan. Even though I haven't been back in years, I still miss it. Recently, Jiangnan's been in turmoil because of the uprising. One of the rebel slogans really resonated with me. It went like this: are kings, lords, generals, and ministers born with special blood? I agree with that. There aren't any truly noble people in this world. Even the founder of the great Zhou dynasty, the ancestor of the Ji family, started as a commoner. If the Ji family can't hold on to the throne, why shouldn't someone more capable take their place? At least that way, the common people could live in peace, instead of ending up with a broken country, occupied and humiliated by foreign invaders. Jiang Hao was speechless. He honestly didn't know what to say. He never imagined that Chen Sheng and Wu Guang, 2 uneducated guys, would unknowingly influence the old scholar, a pillar of the literary world. Chen Sheng and Wu Guang got their start from him, and then the old scholar was influenced by them and came back to persuade him. It really does come full circle. Fate is a funny thing. Although I prefer to avoid trouble, I know everyone has a responsibility for the fate of their country. Right now, the only one who can save the people is you, Wei. If you're serious about seizing power, I'm not the most talented guy, but I've taught a lot of students over the years, and I'm willing to lend you a hand. That the old scholar's eyes burned as he looked at Jiang Hao. His promise was no small thing. As a Confucian and Taoist master, a leader in the literary world, he taught countless students over the years. His students were everywhere, inside and outside the court. Important figures, powerful in the eyes of ordinary people, would still respectfully call him teacher. As the saying goes, when the teacher needs something, the students rally around. He might not have much power himself, but if he spoke up, the power he could gather would be immense. By making this decision, the old master was staking most of his life's reputation on Jiang Hao. If Jiang Hao's uprising failed, he'd be branded a rebel, with no chance of redemption, and no good name after death. Jiang Hao was deeply moved. But he still shook his head and whispered, the time isn't right yet. Even though the Great Zhou was facing trouble both internally and externally, it still had millions of elite troops scattered across the country. Even though the court's influence was waning, it was still the most powerful force in the Central Plains. It had various departments and institutions under its control. Not only did it have the most martial arts masters, but the number of top-tier masters was higher than any other force. As far as Jiang Hao knew, there were at least a dozen heavenly realm masters working for the court and the royal family, and who knows what hidden forces were lurking in the shadows. In short, the legacy of the great Zhou dynasty was far beyond the reach of other groups. Even though the Empress had made some terrible decisions, she hadn't completely ruined that legacy. Of course, that was only one reason. Besides, Jiang Hao himself wasn't ready. Did he really want to take the throne? Honestly, Jiang Hao didn't have a burning desire for it. He'd once ruled the world, and he knew sitting on that throne wasn't as easy as it seemed. Once he took that position, he'd lose his freedom and leisure. On the other hand, he was relaxing in prison every day, with nothing to think about and nothing to do. He was living the good life. Compared to that, Jiang Hao didn't feel any urgency. He'd rather sit back, watch the world unfold, and strike at the perfect moment. "Old sir, you should head back first. Don't worry about anything, just keep doing your research. For now, all I can promise you is that as long as I'm here, the people of the Central Plains won't be bullied by foreign invaders," Jiang Hao said firmly. As he spoke, his body radiated an aura of power that captivated people, making them believe in him. The old man was shocked. Even though he was just an ordinary guy, he had a lot of experience. He realized that Jiang Hao was different, not as helpless as people thought. Then he remembered Tao Gongwang, the prison warden, and the way he treated Jiang Hao. He quickly pieced things together in his mind, but he didn't say anything. He just let out a sigh of relief and smiled. "With your guarantee, Wei, I feel relieved. To be honest, these things aren't really for me. They say scholars are useless. I'm just a bookworm, so I'm better suited to teaching." Jiang Hao chuckled. "Don't put yourself down, old sir. Teaching is a national duty. It benefits both the present and the future. Without teachers like you, where would the country find the talent to govern, and how could it maintain stability?" That the old man felt relieved, happy that he'd come. Soon, he left the prison, carrying the tea Jiang Hao had given him, and Jiang Hao didn't give it another thought. If he had time, he'd rather catch up on his sleep. He laid back down and dozed off. After all, he couldn't interrupt his system rewards. For him, nothing was more important. The Empress quickly got the news that the old master had returned empty-handed. Her face darkened. She wanted to throw him in jail and teach Jiang Hao a lesson. He kept refusing her. Did he really think she wouldn't dare to kill him? But after a moment's hesitation, she suppressed her anger. Otherwise, wouldn't it be admitting that she'd been watching him and trying to get his help? Her heart was full of resentment, but she gritted her teeth and said to herself, "Jiang Hao, someday, I'll make you regret this." Chapter 65. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the old master came back empty-handed, the Empress gave up on Jiang Hao completely. If even the old master couldn't sway Jiang Hao, who could? Unless she humbled herself and personally admitted her mistakes, like the old minister suggested, Jiang Hao might show her some respect. But her pride made that a non-starter, so, they hit a wall. Even though Jiang Hao wouldn't budge, the problem still needed fixing. Life goes on, right? They couldn't just give up. The Empress had to take matters into her own hands. Two heads are better than one, and all that. After a brainstorming session with her top advisors, she landed on a plan and started putting it into motion. First, she doubled down on suppressing the rebellious 7 kings in the north, the Taiping Dao in Jizhou, and the Jiangnan uprising. Second, she beefed up the eastern border garrisons to ward off any opportunistic moves from the demon god Empire, who had been sniffing around. Whether all this would actually work remained to be seen. Time would tell. Meanwhile, the Taiping Dao in Jizhou and the Jiangnan uprising were growing like wildfire. The Zhang brothers were seasoned preachers. Now, with real power behind them, their rebellion was taking off. The Taiping Dao wasn't just booming in Jizhou, it was spreading to Qingzhou, Yuzhou, and beyond. The ranks of the yellow turban warriors swelled. Under Zhang Bao and Zhang Liang, they seized cities, hoisting their banners high. Down in Jiangnan, Chensheng and Wuguang's uprising sparked an inferno. People flocked to their cause, answering their call for food and freedom. In no time, they commanded 1 million followers. Sure, not all of them were trained soldiers, but the sheer force of their movement was a force to be reckoned with. Drawn by their momentum, tough guys joined up, and the local defenses crumbled. The situation in Jiangnan was going from bad to worse. Of course, Jiang Hao had nothing to do with all that. He was the esteemed Duke of Weigua, after all. What could he possibly have in common with these notorious rebels? He just kicked back in his sky prison, enjoying his daily little perks, living the good life. Ding. 142 days of RR, reward, a bowl of tenfold tonic soup. Ding. 143 days of RR, reward, a rejuvenating pill. Ding! 144 days of RR, reward, Earth level combat skill, Spirit Fox body method. Days melted into weeks. After reaching the Dharma image realm, Jiang Hao's progress had definitely slowed compared to his earlier gains. Still, thanks to the system's rewards, he wasn't exactly dragging his feet. Compared to other Dharma image realm masters, he was doing just fine. Even so, at this pace, it would probably take him a year or two to break through to the Heavenly Man realm. For one, the leap from Dharma image to Heavenly Man was notoriously tough. It took decades of hard work. Even for smooth-sailing types, even a prodigy like Empress Ji Luoyao, with all the resources at her disposal, needed 6 or 7 years. Plus, Jiang Hao had built such a rock-solid foundation. He'd unlocked all 360 acupoints, giving him far more yuanli than your average Joe. Even the supervisor of the Imperial Astronomical Bureau, who could tap into his half-demon blood to reach half-step celestial levels, couldn't match Jiang Hao's reserves. Jiang Hao had practically drained him in their earlier fight, but on the flip side, filling those 360 acupoints was a serious grind, so he was living the good life and facing a challenge. Just when Jiang Hao figured his 3-month mini-goal was a lost cause, things took an unexpected turn. Ding! 5-month milestone reward. Congratulations, host. 1,000-year-old Zhu fruit. The announcement hit him like a shot of adrenaline. He'd almost forgotten about the 5-month mark, and this time, the reward wasn't a heroic spirit card or a skill-boosting pet. It was a straight-up natural treasure. 1,000-year-old Zhu fruit. Zhu fruits weren't just any ordinary magical items. 1,000-year-old one was legendary. Even back in the good old days when vitality was abundant, these were priceless. Now, the Millennium Vermilion fruit was the stuff of legend, worth more than all the gold in the world. If you handed it over to a skilled alchemist, they could whip up an elixir that could bring back the dead. But Jiang Hao didn't need to go through all that. Thanks to his human emperor body, anything he swallowed would be fully absorbed, no waste. A Millennium Vermilion fruit. Jackpot! Jiang Hao couldn't help but grin. In terms of pure value, maybe it wasn't on par with 2 heroic spirit cards, let alone a game-changer like the human emperor body or sleeping dragon. But some things aren't about the money, they're about what you need, and right now, Jiang Hao needed this fruit more than anything. It was a bigger win than any heroic spirit card. He wasted no time telling Shadow Demon, grabbing the 1,000-year-old red fruit and stuffing it into his mouth without a second glance. Like Pigsy eating ginseng fruit, he chomped it down in seconds, not even tasting it. The energy packed in that fruit was unreal, dwarfing the elixir-building pill and the tonic soup. We're talking 10 times, 100 times more. That kind of energy surge would have overwhelmed anyone else, but Jiang Hao's body had an insane appetite. Instead of blowing up, he felt amazing. His 360 acupoints were like a horde of hungry kids who hadn't been fed a proper meal in ages. Now that Dad was serving up this gourmet feast, they went wild. The 360 clone gods kicked into overdrive, turning into black holes, devouring the pure energy from the fruit. The energy seemed endless. No matter how much the acupoints sucked up, more kept coming. This went on for hours, until sunset. Jiang Hao finally absorbed the last bit of energy. Even with the human emperor body and his monster appetite, he felt stuffed this time. He was only a Dharma image realm master, after all. The human emperor body wasn't fully grown yet, and there were limits to what he could handle, but after all that fruit-fueled digestion, Jiang Hao's cultivation got a serious boost. He went from barely being a Dharma image realm master to a peak Dharma image realm powerhouse. That's right, 1,000-year-old fruit catapulted Jiang Hao to the pinnacle of the Dharma realm. Now, he was ready to break through to the heaven realm. Chapter 66. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is this 1,000-year-old Zhu fruit really that amazing? Feeling the massive shift in his cultivation, Jiang Hao sucked in a breath. He figured the fruit would be potent, but this was unreal. Just one fruit catapulted him to the peak of the Dharma image realm. For anyone else, that'd be like skipping decades of grueling work. You couldn't put a price on that kind of jump. Truth be told, this was because Jiang Hao's foundation was rock solid. Opening up all 360 acupoints meant he needed way more energy to max out the Dharma image realm compared to others. Meanwhile, Dharma image realm masters with only a few dozen opened acupoints wouldn't need nearly as much juice to level up. So, for them, this Zhu fruit could not only perfect their Dharma image realm, but also give them a real shot at breaking through to the heavenly man realm. Thinking about it that way, this Millennium Vermilion fruit was probably on par with that Demon King cultivation thing. Both could forge a run of the mill heavenly man realm expert, but the Demon King cultivation was demons only, while the Millennium Vermilion fruit had no restrictions. For Jiang Hao, that made the latter way more valuable. So, could I actually try for the heavenly man realm now? That the thought felt like a pipe dream. We're talking about the heavenly man realm here. They're at the top of the food chain in martial arts. Breaking through would instantly make him a big shot, and how long had he been seriously training? Just 5 months. 5 months ago, he was a washout. Now, 5 months later, he could try to hit the heavenly man realm. That's insane. A speed like that was probably unmatched, ever. Given my foundation, I don't even need to prep. I could break through whenever, wherever. Jiang Hao wasn't one to hold back. If he could level up, he'd do it ASAP. No matter how strong the Dharma image realm was, it was still chump change compared to the heavenly man realm. Nail that breakthrough, and his human emperor body would make him a match for those seasoned heavenly man realm guys, stuck in the Dharma image realm. Even with all his advantages, he wouldn't stand a chance against a heavenly man realm master. Escaping would be a win. The only snag was the sheer spectacle of breaking into the heavenly man realm. Remember Ji Luoyao's recent breakthrough? The whole capital was gawking. It was a massive, impossible-to-hide event, but she was the Empress, safe in the palace, guarded by an army of strongmen. No one dared mess with her. Jiang Hao didn't have that luxury. Plus, as a human emperor body, his breakthrough would be even more off the charts. Even hiding on the 18th floor of heavenly prison wouldn't cut it. A quick breakthrough would be fine, but getting jumped by a bunch of heavenly realm folks mid-ascension. Just the thought made his skin crawl. Jiang Hao was confident, but not delusional enough to disrespect heavenly realm masters. Let's be real, anyone who broke through to the heavenly realm had serious talent. Even that weakling Helian Feng, the Black Witch cult pope, only looked pathetic because he was ganged up on by the Zhangju brothers. One-on-one, he'd be a different beast. Every heavenly realm expert was a force to be reckoned with. So, the safest bet is to find a remote place and break through quietly. The capital was a no-go, too many strong eyes everywhere, impossible to hide. Luckily, Jiang Hao knew the outskirts of the capital like the back of his hand. He thought for a minute and found the perfect spot, a desolate wilderness, untouched by humans, a couple 100 miles east of the capital. No one would notice a thing. With a plan in place, Jiang Hao wasted no time. He got Yinyao to track down Tao Gongwang and get the wheels in motion. That night, Jiang Hao and Yinyao slipped out of prison. It was Jiang Hao's first time outside in 5 months. Once clear of the prison, he ducked into a quiet corner. The shadows behind him writhed as 2 wings of pure dark energy took shape. He used them to rocket into the sky. A few 100 miles was nothing for someone his level, especially with Yinyao's wings providing a boost. In just over an hour, Jiang Hao reached his destination. He plunged into the deep mountains. After a quick search, he picked a natural cave halfway up a mountain for his breakthrough. The cave belonged to a black bear, who initially thought Jiang Hao was a late-night snack delivery and charged with a roar, but after a friendly chat, the bear realized its mistake and willingly gave up the cave, even offering a pair of bear paws as a peace offering. After a satisfying meal, Jiang Hao sat cross-legged, practicing his skills and clearing his mind. With the shadow demon secretly guarding him, he let loose and dove in. Methods for breaking into the heavenly realm. From Zhilong's sleeping skill flooded his mind. He slipped into a trance-like state, somewhere between awake and asleep. Just as he'd suspected, no special preparations were needed. He quickly sensed the bottleneck he needed to shatter. Frankly, if he couldn't break through with his advantages, who could? Let's do this. Jiang Hao took a deep breath and closed his eyes tight. He channeled all his strength into Sleeping Dragon. The energy in his 360 acupoints surged, his clones went into overdrive, and his terrifying consciousness mobilized. The surrounding power of heaven and earth responded, drawn in by his spiritual power. The range grew wider, the power stronger, time blurred. When the concentration of heaven and earth reached an insane level, Jiang Hao was ready. He unleashed all his energy and consciousness, launching a full-force assault on the heavenly man realm. Chapter 67. You are listening at novelfull.audio. From the Dharma realm to the heaven realm, the biggest shift is a personal transformation. The name heaven realm actually alludes to becoming an embodiment of heaven itself. What is heaven, then? It means merging with heaven, disconnecting from the mortal world, and living as long as heaven. You transcend the 5 elements, escape reincarnation, and become a true immortal. Of course, that's the ideal. Even the chi refiners of ancient times rarely achieved that level, let alone today's martial arts masters. Forget transcending the 5 elements and reincarnation. Just living as long as heaven is impossible, so, heaven in martial arts is more of a symbolic concept. It represents a total spiritual upgrade, a change from the inside out, and a transformation of consciousness, dharma. Realm masters use consciousness to leverage the power of heaven and earth, like using a lever to move a mountain. Heaven realm masters directly control that power. They can empower themselves or unleash incredible skills with it. It's a fundamental difference. Directly controlling the power of heaven and earth requires immense spiritual strength, but also a strong physical foundation to withstand that power. However, that's for ordinary warriors. Someone like the Empress Ji Luoyao, with the human emperor body, already possesses superior spiritual and physical strength. Her breakthrough was so smooth because she had a head start. Conversely, the Imperial Observatory supervisor is stuck. He's reached the peak of the Dharma realm, but his spiritual and physical strength can't keep up, because he's reached his limit. He can't cross into the heaven realm. Jiang Hao, though, is even better off than Empress Ji Luoyao. With the human emperor body, he's never feared the power of heaven and earth. Breaking into the heaven realm shouldn't be too hard for him. Shouldn't be too hard means that if he commits to the process, doesn't mess around, he should sail through. Breaking into the heaven realm is dangerous. An accident could be fatal. Jiang Hao knows this and won't take it lightly. Even a lion goes all out against a rabbit, let alone when his life's on the line. Jiang Hao exerted all his strength, drawing in the endless power of heaven and earth. Nourished by that power, his body changed at an unbelievable rate. Every organ, bone, meridian, cell, and even his skin underwent a transformation. The biggest change was in his 360 acupoints. He'd already expanded them to their maximum during his Long Men realm training. Now, as he broke through to the heaven realm, they expanded. Again, they expanded at an amazing speed, evolving into independent worlds. The clone gods within those acupoints grew rapidly. His breakthrough was a domino effect. As the clone gods grew, his human emperor body reactivated. The forces of heaven and earth were the key to unlocking the human emperor body. They flooded in from 100-mile radius, absorbed by the human emperor body. The human emperor body glowed, seemingly growing larger, triggering the rules of heaven and earth. The resulting spectacle was bigger than anything before. Luckily, it was happening deep in the mountains, otherwise, people would be stunned. Jiang Hao's body rose into the air, breaking through the cave roof and into the sky. Without the mountain in the way, the power of heaven and earth poured into him more intensely. The human emperor body's power erupted again, completing Jiang Hao's transformation. This time, the changes were real, not just fleeting glimpses. His blood flowed with golden light, each drop containing incredible vitality, moving toward rebirth by blood. His heart and other vital organs were also greatly strengthened. Each heartbeat sounded like a lion's roar. His breathing was like a whale swallowing the ocean. Even his lifespan extended significantly. Martial arts masters don't usually live as long as Qigong masters. Martial arts focuses on combat, not health and longevity. Even the strongest heaven realm masters only live 300 to 500 years, and that's if they avoid fighting and focus on health. Most heaven realm masters can't do that. They can't avoid fighting. They only live 200 to 300 years. They barely outlive the doji cultivators among Qigong masters, and fall far behind the higher level ones. But Jiang Hao, even as a pure martial arts master, would experience an extended lifespan, reaching thousands of years with the activation of his human emperor body, and that was just the beginning. His lifespan would continue to grow as the human emperor body developed. This was a great thing. A long lifespan provides the time needed to pursue higher realms. Otherwise, even great power is just a flash in the pan. Time passed. Jiang Hao's breakthrough continued. Its influence spread. Finally, he reached the critical moment, his spirit reaching its peak. With a boom, the power of heaven and earth erupted. Jiang Hao's ears rang. He felt completely enveloped by the power of heaven and earth. Fused with it, he transformed into a ball of light, radiating power. The mountains shook, the heavens celebrated, countless strong individuals across the continent looked up, they sensed a new, unprecedented power of heaven and earth, and the same thought echoed in their minds, this is, the rise of the human emperor. Chapter 68. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The moment Jiang Hao shattered the barrier and ascended to the heavenly human realm, he became one with the heavens, his spirit intertwined with the earth. Standing above the highest heights, he heard the resounding call of the great Tao. He seemed eternal, immortal, a true heavenly human being, each of his movements now carried immense power. A mere thought could topple mountains, divert rivers. Behind him, a majestic figure stood, no longer a hazy image, but a vivid, divine presence, adorned with a human crown and wielding the human emperor's sword. The statue radiated solemnity, a godlike figure mirroring Jiang Hao perfectly. The human emperor had returned, inspiring worship and submission. Even the heavens and earth celebrated, unleashing breathtaking phenomena. Even in the desolate wilderness, rosy clouds painted the sky, divine light shimmered everywhere, and creatures great and small paid homage, turning the land into a veritable paradise. While ordinary people might not fully grasp the significance of this earth-shattering event, it sent shockwaves through the minds of those attuned to the world's energies. It felt as if they were witnessing the impossible, experiencing an overwhelming pressure that permeated their very being. Even the most formidable warriors, those who had reached the pinnacle of the heavenly realm, were visibly shaken. Under this immense force, they could only bow their heads. They were not simply facing the power of the heavens and earth, but also the unparalleled might of the emperor. This combination was simply insurmountable. This is, the human emperor body. How can another human emperor body emerge in this era? The Ji family ancestor only achieved it through sheer luck. Many of those conditions can't be replicated now. So how? Could the Ji family have produced another once-in-an-era genius? And he's broken through to the heavenly human realm at this exact moment. Is this a blessing or a curse? Another human emperor body. Looks like this continent is heading for chaos again. Can this one save the great Zhou? We'll just have to wait and see. Many warriors immediately thought of the Ji ancestor who founded the great Zhou dynasty. He was, after all, the last human emperor body to appear. His origins were humble. It was only through the awakening of the human emperor body that he rose to prominence, forging a legendary life. The cultivation environment back then was far better, the number of warriors greater, and the powers vying for control countless. The Ji family ancestor fought his way to the top, leaving countless dead in his wake. The great Zhou dynasty was built upon a mountain of bones. The emergence of another human emperor body naturally stirred up speculation. Even if this one couldn't match the Ji ancestor, the very existence of the human emperor body demanded respect. But not everyone was worried. Some had a sense of where this breakthrough originated and were secretly thrilled. For example, the three Zhang brothers of the Yellow Turban army of Jizhou were ecstatic. Now that our Lord has reached the heavenly human realm, he's unstoppable. We don't need to worry about his safety. We can fully commit to building the Yellow Turban cause. Far away in Jiangnan, Chen Sheng and Wu Guang exchanged knowing smiles. The Lord is advancing so quickly. We can't fall behind. Let's secure Jiangnan quickly and offer it as a gift to our Lord. Even the Samo Dharma king, who had returned to the Golden Horde, suspected who had broken through. Unlike Zhang Ju and the others, his feelings were complicated. The last time he saw Jiang Hao, he was only in the Tiangang realm. Now, in such a short time, he had ascended to the heavenly human realm. His speed was unbelievable. Compared to him, the Dharma king, hailed as a once-in-a-century genius of the Golden Horde, seemed ordinary, yet, only someone so extraordinary was worthy of his devotion and capable of leading him forward. With the human emperor to guide me, what's to fear? I don't seek enlightenment, nor do I desire ascension to paradise. I simply wish to experience the pinnacle of martial arts. To achieve that, I'd gladly walk through hell itself. He took a deep breath, his eyes hardening with resolve. Different strokes for different folks, and all had different goals and ambitions. However, the strongest reaction came not from the ambitious figures lurking in the shadows, nor from devoted followers like Zhang Jiao, but from Empress Ji Luoyao in the imperial palace. Ji Luoyao was now a powerful heavenly human realm warrior, her overall strength placing her among the continents. Elite, while she couldn't dominate the world single-handedly, she feared no one, even against the most formidable warriors at the peak of the heavenly human realm. Her human king body allowed her to retreat safely, even in defeat. The human king body was indeed the best physique. It not only sped up cultivation but also enhanced physical prowess, refined spiritual energy, and eased the mastery of laws. Its advantages were numerous, however. For all its benefits, the human king body had one fatal flaw: it was utterly restrained by the human emperor body. It's like a younger sibling meeting an older one, a sheep meeting a wolf. The king was no match for the emperor. This was why Ji Luoyao had been so eager to eliminate the human emperor body. It limited her too much, in every way. That's why she had stubbornly reduced the power of the vassal states, defying her ministers' objections. But after the Imperial Observatory incident, she discovered the true identity of the supervisor. Believing she had been deceived into thinking there was no human emperor body, she regretted her actions. Now, she had confirmation. The supervisor wasn't lying. Someone had indeed awakened the human emperor body, and this human emperor body had successfully reached the heavenly human realm. If his cultivation level was still below hers, she could have used her advantage to suppress him, but now that they were equals, her confidence vanished. With the existence of the human emperor body, her plan to conquer the world by force was a joke. A wave of fear washed over her. Who is this human emperor body? Chapter 69. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the wilderness, 3 figures emerged from the east, sticking to the shadows during the day and moving under the cover of night. They were surprisingly fast, navigating the rugged terrain as if it were a smooth road. Each step seemed to eat up several feet, making them 3 times faster than a horse. Clearly, these were no ordinary travelers. Even more striking was the absence of Yuanli. Instead, a dark, ominous aura clung to them. These weren't human warriors, they were powerful demons from the eastern wilderness demon god empire. Unlike the well-disguised half-demon, like the late director of the Imperial Observatory, these were pure demons, making it impossible to completely hide their demonic energy. This undoubtedly explained why they chose the mountain paths and favored night travel. Haven't had to work this hard in ages, grumbled a stout demon. If King Peng were calling the shots, we'd have flown straight to the capital of the great Zhou dynasty. With the Central Plains in such chaos, those humans wouldn't even notice us. The thinner of the 2 demons chuckled. King Peng's just being cautious. You're just lazy, Pigsy. Look at all that flab you've packed on. You humans have a saying, born in trouble, die in comfort. Maybe you should take it to heart. Yeah, right, Pigsy scoffed. You believe what humans say. They don't even believe it themselves. If they actually lived by that born in trouble thing, the great Zhou dynasty wouldn't be such a mess right now. It wasn't always like this, the thin demon countered. The Duke of Weigua knew what he was doing. Even the demon king respected him. Too bad he was just too weak. The Empress tossed him into heavenly prison without breaking a sweat. Any of the troublemakers back in our empire would have turned things upside down before they let that happen. He paused, a thought striking him. Hey, what if, after we snag the human emperor, we grab the Duke of Weigua too? Drag him back to run the demon god empire for us. In a few years, we'd be unstoppable. He glanced at King Peng, the clear leader, radiating power and arrogance. Not a bad idea, King Peng conceded. I've heard of the Duke of Wei. Even His Majesty said he's got a real talent for governing. Probably true. Our demon god empire's great in every way, except we're totally lacking in the leadership department. These guys are good fighters, but few can actually govern. That's why, outside the royal court, most of our territories aren't even as prosperous as some backwater town in the Great Zhou. A real disgrace to the demon god empire. If this Duke Weigua could fix that, I'd even give him half-demon blood myself. That the others were taken aback, then grinned, offering compliments. Looks like King Peng's really impressed. Willing to share your noble blood? Yeah, if you, with your impressive lineage, were to personally do it, that human would be forever grateful and willing to be driven by us. King Peng nodded smugly, as if it were his due. After all, what human in his right mind would refuse? Then again, acquiring half-demon blood wasn't easy. Doing it too often could weaken even someone like him, especially with his extraordinary lineage. In a twisted way, this was indeed a form of respect. Whether Jiang Hao would appreciate that kind of respect was another story. Enough about that for now. First, we find the human emperor. This is the demon emperor's direct order, our mission. Can't screw it up. This human emperor is crucial, especially one who's just awakened. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Must be ours. His tone turned serious, then he frowned again. What's up with that half-demon, anyway? He's been silent for days. Don't know if he's found anything. Figures, can't trust those low-blood types. If the demon god empire had someone reliable in the Great Zhou, why would we even bother with a half-demon? That he was clearly referring to the late director of the Imperial Observatory. It was the director who'd tipped them off about the human emperor. The director probably hadn't realized just how seriously the demon god empire would take this, sending a team all the way here with the express purpose of hauling the emperor back. Of course, the director would never know, now that he was dead, his body, nothing but ashes. Her Majesty the Empress orders, of course. According to the map, we're close to the Great Zhou's emperor. We'll contact him when we get there. Hope he hasn't messed things up. If he has, he'll learn the difference between us and humans. We aren't so easy to deal with. His face twisted with suppressed rage. Stuck in this strange Great Zhou, he couldn't act out, but he planned to settle accounts later. Suddenly, the earth shook, strange lights filled the sky, they stopped dead, looking up in shock. That's someone breaking through to the heavenly human realm. Look at that insane vision. Doesn't it look like the legendary human emperor? Not just like it, that is it. The Demon King described this vision exactly. It's him, and he's close. They stared at each other, stunned. They hadn't expected the emperor to have already broken through, contrary to the director's information, nor had they expected to stumble upon him so soon after arriving. Could they be any luckier? Felt like they'd just won the lottery. The emperor's strength was a surprise, but not a problem. They were chosen by the Demon King himself, dispatched for this vital mission. They were hardly pushovers. In fact, even in the power-packed demon god empire, they were renowned. All three had broken through to the Demon King's realm, equivalent to the heavenly human realm in human terms, and with their superior bloodlines and innate magical powers, they were even stronger than ordinary heavenly human masters. Looks like our emperor's almost through. Let's go give him a little welcome gift. King Peng cackled, the other two joined in, grinning. They launched into the air without hesitation. Their monstrous demonic power exploded, whipping up 3 black cyclones that hurtled towards their target. Chapter 70. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boss, we got a problem. Looks like a real bruiser headed our way. The shadow demon's voice popped in Jiang Hao's ear. Jiang Hao had just leveled up, eyes closed. He was soaking in the changes, the difference between this heavenly man realm and all the new tricks his human emperor body could pull, the heavenly man realm thing. That was for later. Getting to this new level, though, seemed to fully unlock the human emperor body, and all kinds of wild stuff started kicking in. Besides the upgraded hardware, there were some software updates too. One thing, in particular, grabbed Jiang Hao's attention. This human emperor body activation seriously juiced up his combat instincts. Now, boosted combat instincts might sound basic, but the effect? Off the charts, especially for a guy like Jiang Hao, who was a bit light on real fight experience. This talent was gold. Usually, combat experience is built up, lesson by lesson, in fights, sometimes even when you eat dirt. That's why the best fighters are usually vets. But then you get these freaks of nature who just get fighting from day one. Someone throws a punch. They don't even think, their body just knows how to react. These are the guys who go from zero to hero in no time, even if they're green. Gotta admit, some people are just born with it, and now Jiang Hao's got a similar gift. So yeah, he was stoked. But before he could really dig into this new development, the shadow demon chimed in. Jiang Hao snapped his eyes open and looked where the shadow demon was pointing. He frowned. Seriously? Someone's coming now. He'd picked this spot specifically to avoid interruptions while leveling. Backcountry for miles, nobody ever around, and it was late, pitch dark to anyone without night vision. Nobody in their right mind would be hiking through these mountains at this hour, so 3 seriously strong fighters showing up out of nowhere? Yeah, that was weird. And from where he stood, these 3 weren't just strong humans. The dark, nasty demon energy pouring off them was a dead giveaway. Demon fighters. What were 3 of them doing near the imperial capital? Jiang Hao was getting more confused by the second. If it was 3 powerful humans, he could almost understand it, but demons, and this strong. They usually hung out in the demon god empire, way out in the eastern wilds. How'd they end up in the heart of Great Zhou? Haha. It really is the human emperor body. After all the searching, it was right here. Looks like the big guy up there's finally throwing us a bone. Think we can wrap up His Majesty's mission early? Sweet. Just then, the 3 Peking swept in, riding a demonic wind. Getting closer, they picked up on the lingering human emperor energy still swirling around Jiang Hao from his breakthrough. That cinched it. The guy in front of them was the human emperor body. No wonder they'd been sweating bullets. The human emperor body hadn't shown its face in years. Even the demon king only had a vague idea of what to expect from some dusty old books in the demon god empire. The 3 had been keeping their distance, too scared to call it for sure, but now. 0 doubts. They felt like they just won the lottery and couldn't help but crack up. Jiang Hao stared at the 3 boneheads rolling up like they owned the place, looking totally lost, but from what they were saying, he could guess these demon big shots were here for him, on orders from the demon king, because of the human emperor body thing. And how did the demon king even know about it? Jiang Hao's brain immediately flashed to the traitor, the head of the Imperial Observatory. He was probably the one who'd spilled the beans. Putting it all together, Jiang Hao figured he was pretty much on the money. He glared at the 3 powerful demons, eyes glinting. 3 demon king-level heavy hitters. They had to be known back in the demon god empire, right? The demon king wasn't messing around, but Jiang Hao wasn't about to run. Sure, with his human emperor body speed and the shadow demon backing him up, he could probably make a clean getaway, and if he could just duck into the imperial capital, these 3 wouldn't dare follow. Too high profile. 3 demons with their kind of stink rolling around the heart of the empire. They'd be lit up like Christmas trees and attract every heavy hitter in the city. They might be demon king level, but they'd still catch a serious beatdown if they got cornered. If enough heavenly man realm fighters swarmed them, they might even get taken down. So why wasn't Jiang Hao running? Simple, he didn't need to. Sure, he just leveled up, but with the human emperor body's power, he wasn't scared of anyone at his level, and even if there were 3 demon king level fighters in his face, Jiang Hao wasn't backing down. His 360 acupoints had already kicked into overdrive, and raw power was surging through his veins. He'd just topped off the tank, so there was no way Jiang Hao was turning tail before a fight. Looks like I was short a practice dummy. You 3, perfect timing, Jiang Hao said coolly, his dark eyes sparked with a bonfire of fighting spirit. What did you say? The 3 Peking stopped laughing, their faces turning hard. They stared at Jiang Hao, eyes like ice. Jiang Hao didn't waste time with talk. He took a step, vanished, and charged straight at the biggest, baddest Peking of the bunch. You wanna die? Peking roared, demonic power exploded from his body, whipping up gusts of black wind, and he crackled with raw, terrifying energy. He swung his right hand, conjuring a brutal black streak of power, and slashed at Jiang Hao. The old Jiang Hao would have either dodged or met that power head-on. No other options, but this time, he felt like he had some kind of cheat code. His body, moving like it had a mind of its own, dodged the black streak with 0 effort. Not just because he was faster after leveling up, but because the human emperor body had seriously cranked up his combat smarts. In that split second, he was in Peking's face, throwing a haymaker that felt like the sky was falling. Peking was tough, but he was caught off guard. He'd underestimated Jiang Hao, and he didn't have time to build up his own power. He got hit like a runaway train, staggered back, and didn't even get a chance to catch his breath before Jiang Hao was on him again. A streak of light came crashing down from above, slamming Peking into the ground. Boom. Dirt flew everywhere, leaving a huge crater in the ground, and Peking was buried deep. The whole fight was a blur. Over in seconds, the other two demon kings just stared, dumbfounded. They hadn't been able to react fast enough to jump in.